Hello and welcome to another video here with Man and Machine. And today's topic of conversation, if you haven't recognized what's in my background here, is Fusion Manage. But not just Fusion Manage. It's also something called Vault PLM. So for those of you who've been long-time Vault users or people who are just curious about it, hang on and let's go through it. The majority of users that we find out there with Vault installed are using it primarily as a data management system. Exactly what it's meant to be. It is a PDM, a product data management system. It's designed to go and take all of that data that we are spitting out of our CAD programs and allow us a place where we can safely store that data, organize it, add properties to it, control it with a life cycle, and secure it as might need be. Now, a lot of companies who have the system installed have other processes that happen in the background. They might be looking at change orders in the background. It could be controlled via Excel, might be done with emails back and forth. It could be pictures. It could be tons of different things, but a formal process somewhere needs to exist in order to track these particular changes. The same thing for supplier management, the same thing for your quality checks, and often it involves Windows shared folders and Excel documents to some extent. So this is where Fusion Manage enters the chat. And what is Fusion Manage? Well, Fusion Manage is a PLM, Product Lifecycle Management. So it's designed to go ahead and look after things like your new product introductions, make sure that you've got structure and framework for your idea management. It's going to help you on a wider team manage your BOMs, and that might mean involving procurement, as well as giving us access to quality management and change management as part of this. So rather than this being a replacement for Vault, you need to be looking at Fusion Manage as an augmentation of Vault. It is going to help you run more processes in a centralized system, which is cloud-based, and allow everyone to work on the same platform. Now, this reduces errors in terms of copies of various different things floating around. No more looking for, hang on, is this document I've got the latest? No more wondering what's happened to that change order that I was dealing with 2 weeks ago. I haven't heard anything since. You can go onto a site and you can essentially have a look at it. So let's jump into what this is. We have Vault PLM, which for a lot of already pre-existing Vault clients is going to be your entry point for Fusion Manage, because this is a very cost-effective way to get these additional tools added to your pre-existing licenses. So Vault PLM contains a Vault Professional license as well as a Fusion Manage license. Now, the reason that this is so cost-effective for users who already have Vault is because it bundles these licenses together. If you were to purchase Fusion Manage licenses separately from your Vault ones, the cost would be considerably higher. Now, for a lot of users who are going to be introducing Fusion Manage, they probably already have a Vault Professional license, which is why this Vault PLM license exists in the first place. So let's start looking at reasons why you might want to look at a PLM system at your company. According to a 2022 survey, which was conducted by Lifecycle Insights, the following were key factors which would drive a manufacturing company to change how they managed their product data and processes. So improving productivity, 43%, followed closely by improving collaboration at 42%. They also wanted to reduce product development costs, that was 41%, adopting best practices, 40%, and reducing time to market, 36%. Most manufacturing companies want this out of a PLM solution. And now let's take a look at the amount of wastage that happens per year. Okay, so 2 months a year spent looking for product data. On average, 10 systems that engineers need to go ahead and work with. 83% of new products miss their cost targets, and 79% of new products miss their launch date. These numbers are staggering, and all it does is highlight the need for something that is going to help you manage these processes effectively. Collaboration tends to be a major issue with manufacturing companies and engineering companies as a whole, with almost half of these engineering companies reporting issues with collaboration between teams, external suppliers, etc. Now, these usually stem from multiple different environments to work in. We might have files being stored on a Windows server, we might have an ERP system in the background, we might have a supplier portal, and these are all separate entities that don't ever talk to each other and need to be managed individually in order to get this data through the processes that we require it to do so. This is a problem. And the next issue we need to talk about is processing things, controlling product development, changes. How do we manage our data? So a lot of engineering companies struggle with issuing designs, managing what version is what, looking at the drawings that are going to the shop floor. Are they the correct version or the latest version? How can I tell what version is this drawing? What version does my supplier have? These are common issues. So managing change, configuring BOMs, managing our design data, and having tasks to go and manage what's going on with our various different projects is key to this whole process. And these are things that people struggle with. This boils down to data management, not just our design data, but also our data controlling our change orders, all of these other little pieces which form part of the process that we've got. With almost half of these companies, 1 in 3 companies, sorry, talking about using a wrong or outdated data at some point in time. So some of the questions you need to ask yourself is, has my company lost product data? Have I used the wrong versions before? Have I manufactured the wrong things? Was a change order missed? Was a quality document missed as part of an audit or discovered missing when we came to an audit? What has happened with our data and why are we getting the wrong versions? Autodesk likes to talk about central source of truth, and for a long time that was Vault in Autodesk's point of view, and now more than ever it is starting to become PLM based, and we're seeing a shift in the center to have both PLM data as well as our CAD data. Now, there's a lot of companies out there where if you drew the various different departments and you had a look at who's sending data to who and how they're sending it, you would see that there's multiple different formats. It could be people walking that data across, could be USB drives, could be email, could be storing it on a company server. It's a bit of a mixed bag what you're dealing with. And I can almost guarantee you that lost in this chaos is duplicates of data. And some might be newer than others. And how do you tell which one is the newest? And how can you work out what the right bit of data to have actually is? And now let's talk about another issue that we've got with a traditional way of working in an engineering company. And this is to do with how design departments tend to hand over the design work to other departments, because it might not necessarily be as simple as this. So this is the throw it over the wall approach, where the engineering team essentially hands over a data packet to the production team or supply chain team or quality team or whoever it might be they might be feeding to. And this kind of becomes their problem. Design done, go ahead and deal with everything else you guys need to deal with to make sure that this gets made. Now, overall, that tends to increase the cost if problems are discovered later down the line. Because if those teams point out issues to the engineering team afterwards, it now needs to go back to the engineering team to be reworked and then sent in. The further down this process we get, the higher the cost of implementing a change is going to be. What we aim to solve with Vault PLM is this. We want all of our departments working on the same platform where we can share data, where we can get ideas across, where we can track our processes, where we can track our tasks. We're getting email notifications when things need to be done. And this is precisely what Vault PLM is going to do. And it's also going to allow us to move the issue discoveries further earlier into this process, which means that we've got a lot less costs when it comes time to changing it. Because if all of these departments are involved at this design from the beginning, it means that with an automated process, we could deal with these issues before they become a major problem, before we're too far down that road. And this is what Autodesk PLM is going to give you. So this is some of the processes that's available. I'll get into further ones in a little bit, but you can see that we've got some BOM management, which is going to be useful for organizing our suppliers and making sure that we're ordering the right parts. We might be looking at requirement management, so we can then track it kind of openly and talk about the requirements that might need to be there. We could be looking at design reviews and collaboration, different teams having a look at those designs, marking things up, working on them. We've got product portfolio management. What products are we selling currently? When is the end of life for this product? When is this one coming in? These are the kind of things we can see from that one. From the supply chain management, it means we can get our suppliers into our system and start talking about what they can give us and what costs might be for various different suppliers, and all working on the same system. We could be dealing with new product introductions. I'll skip over additional configuration processes for additional configurable processes for a second. I'll come back to that. New product introductions, so how we get our new products from ideas and concepts through a formal process into the engineering team and allowing us to develop these products. Ideas management, just general improvements that might need to be made. It's a really good, useful tool for generically going through ideas and making sure that they're followed up. Change management, we've already spoken about with change orders, change requests, and managing those change tasks. And quality management, which would include things like inspection plans, inspections that are carried out, essentially returns that we've essentially picked up non-conformances, etc. Now, I'm going to drop back to the additional configurable processes at the same time, because what PLM gives us here, this Autodesk PLM, which is Fusion Manage, is going to give us this ability to create any environment that we might like, which means that any process that is currently existing in your organization, be it digital in terms of Excel sheets going back and forward, be it manual written documents that are passed between files for various different designs that are going between different teams and making sure that everything's getting processed correctly, we can create a process to track that, manage that, and has a life cycle to make sure that things aren't being forgotten, meaning that we truly can work in the middle of a connected process, a nice big centralized system. Now, let's have a look at Fusion Manage for a second, shall we? This is Fusion Manage, and when we log on to it, you can see that we have our home page here with our various different charts and things. These are configurable, and we can choose exactly which ones we'd like to go and see. This is configurable over here, I believe. Am I clicking in the wrong? Yeah, here we go. Add charts, and we can essentially turn on various different charts. It just kept collapsing it when I was trying to click on that. You can see that I've got a whole bunch of outstanding works from various different workspaces. You can see some of them are ideas, some of them are non-conformances, some of them are project tasks that need to be completed. And I've also got bookmarked items where I could be looking at, hang on, this change request, I'm currently dealing with that. I want that bookmarked so I can go and have a look at it, as well as a history of what I've recently been working on. Now, if I went over here, you can see I've got the different workspaces. So let's go ahead and have a look at the ones that we were talking about earlier. So we were talking about change management. If I go to change management, you can see that I've got change requests, change orders, change tasks, problem reports. And if I go to quality, you can see that I've got non-conformances, quality inspection plans, quality inspections, RMAs, claims, CAPAs, etc. So these environments, each of them, have items inside of them. And these items contain attachments if we wanted them to have, and this particular one I've clicked on doesn't have one. It's also got information which can be filled out, kind of like a digital form. Now, this details page allows us to fill out the properties and information with regards to that particular process. In this particular kappa, what needs to be filled out here? What attachments, what documents are attached to it? And each item could have its own workflow. And this is the one for kappas, which is off the shelf. You can see that it's going to start at originated, it's going to go through definition, measurement, analysis, improvement, control, and then finally be closed. Now, importantly, each of these environments can be scripted to trigger each other in various different ways. So say, for example, with change requests, once a change request has been done, it should trigger a change order automatically, and it does, copying that data from one system into the other. And if we have a look at our change orders here for a second, you can see that, let's go ahead and have a look at this initial release. We've got some information which is filled in for this. I think I've chosen poorly on this particular one. Yeah, there's not a lot of information being filled in here, but you can see that we've got our attachments which are set up here. And you can see that we've got related attachments at the bottom here, a whole bunch of DWFs which have been synchronized out of a vault into here. And you can see our affected items. You can see the numbers the same. So it's talking about the items that this is actually releasing. And we don't have any tasks which are planned for this, but if we had, we would see them listed down below, and we would be able to schedule them in this environment over here. Now, with the workflow for this particular one, you can see that for a change order, it goes through preparation, performing a change, reviewing the results, and we can go back and forth through this as many times as need be. It has a change control board approval process, and it finally goes to a release. Now, we can configure this to be exactly as you'd like it as a process. What you are seeing on your screen is just the out-of-the-box version of this. Right, let's go have a discussion about where you would start with this whole process, because it's a big thing to consider, and having a starting point is always going to be a, a, a good start, essentially. So Fusion Manage, don't panic when you look at this. This is kind of like a default tenant configuration map. So it looks like a whole bunch of different environments talking to other things, but it's showing you the interconnectivity between these various different things, between quality management and change management, between product development and change management. You can kind of see that product development sits at the center of this Fusion Manage tool. Now, let's talk about some relationships which are going to be beneficial inside of your use of Fusion Manage as a already pre-existing Vault user. So we're going to start off very simply with change management. And you can see with change management, we're going to start over here. And one of the places where we could start in terms of change management is a problem report. So we've picked up that there's a problem. How are we going to solve this problem? Where would we like to go? And that's going to generate a change request. Now, in some organizations, the problem report wouldn't exist. The change request would be the first step in this particular one, and it still could be for your organization if yours falls into that category. I think for most, however, a problem report is useful, making sure that everything is investigated correctly. And off the back of our change request, let's say, for example, our change request is completed and it is warranted that a change order need to exist, it's then going to go ahead and become a change order automatically inside of Fusion Manage. And once that change order is complete, it will then go ahead and update our items and bombs, giving us a workflow going from one end of the change management system all the way through to the other. Now, let's talk about quality management for a second. So with quality management, this is an area where I think a lot of engineering companies could use a system to manage this particular process. This is a big, one of those candidates where a lot of companies tend to manage this with Excel rather than any other system. And there's a fantastic system here out of the box, which could just work exactly to your quality management requirements. So with quality management, we're going to start off over here. And you can see that we start with a non-conformance. Something has picked up as not matching what we might need it to, and that's going to go ahead and generate a kappa, corrective and preventative actions. Now, off the back of the corrective and preventative actions, it's then going to generate a change request. And now we've gone back into that change cycle that we were looking at before, which leads on to our change order, which leads on to our items and BOM, showing you that from both directions, we could get back to our items and BOM and manage exactly what needs to happen with our products. Now, that's before we get to the tasks. That's before we get to any other environments that's in here. That is purely quality and change orders, which has been taken here by Fusion Manage. Now, let's have a look at an RMA workflow. So we're going to start over here, an RMA to generate the start of this, which is then going to generate a kappa, as we already discussed, which goes ahead and generates the rest of these. This is how Fusion Manage would handle these various different bits. Now remember that each one of these steps has its own item details, its own workflows, its own notification systems, and in the back of Fusion Manage, it's driven by a scripting environment, which means that we could get it to automate various different bits and customize what automations are occurring for your specific system should you need it. So workspaces have a workflow and audit trail, meaning that for any audits that you might be going through, you can see the process going from one end to the other, relating to each other, with links going back there to follow the whole process from initiation to closure. And then we've got our workflows, which essentially drive our life cycle. So our life cycle in this particular case is our items and BOM. It's our revision essentially of that particular design. For you in Vault users out there, it can be linked to your revision inside of your Vault as well, although that tends to be custom scripted as needed. Now, as well as what we have already discussed, here is some of the out-of-the-box configurable workspaces which exist inside of Fusion Manage to date. This means that if you have a license of Fusion Manage, you can simply go to the App Store, you can go and install any of these environments that you'd like to have in your Fusion Manage tenant, and they would then be available for you. So take a look there. I'll leave it up for a couple seconds. It is a really useful thing to go and have a look at which ones are available here. The reason why is the more of these that you can integrate into your business at once, the greater your value proposition of moving to Fusion Manage at the same time. And when it comes to cloud collaboration, there are a couple benefits. We want to obviously work on the same system. We want to reduce the cost, and this means that everyone working on the same system means we don't have to go and pay for various different systems to manage all of these. And of course, this is going to improve our quality and increase our productivity. Increasing our productivity mainly through collaboration and making sure that we're working on the same system, as well as decreasing the amount of time we spent searching for our data. And improving the quality because it is a consistent process that's tracked and is tracked the whole way through with a full audit trail, we can then make sure that every step is followed as needed. Now let's talk about getting these two pieces of software to talk to each other, because that's a critical piece of Fusion Manage and Vault being lumped together under this Vault PLM license type. So we want to drive efficiency in this whole process. And how do we go about doing that? Well, there's a tool called PDM Booster. Now, PDM Booster is a job processor. It is a third-party job processor developed by Man and Machine. Now, for those of you who are Vault users, you likely already have a job processor that sits in the background, generating your step files, generating your PDF files, and automating various different processes, synchronizing properties, etc., as part of your lifecycle transitions. PDM Booster is a third-party job processor, so it allows us to script in PowerShell exactly what we might like to happen at various different lifecycle transitions, when we do button presses, etc., which means that with some additional tools, which is now provided by PDM Booster to deal specifically with Fusion Manage, we can now start linking your Fusion Manage tenant into your Vault Professional, meaning that your items or files that exist inside of Vault Professional can be synchronized to your Fusion Manage to be processed on that side as well, and we can have it go the other way around as well. So let's say, for example, a change order is needing to have some design data work done. It could be pushed into a specific state, which triggers an ECO generated on the Vault Professional should you want to track the ECOs through there. Although I think most companies would just track the change orders directly through Fusion Manage and update the CAD designs as they might need to. The point being, this link can be however you'd like to configure it. It is customizable to your specific needs. Now, if we take this one step further, we can even use PDM Booster to start talking to our ERP systems. So with ERP systems, maybe we want to have our bill of material transferred across at this point in time. Maybe we want to have various different items created in our ERP system with different processes happening. We can trigger this through PDM Booster, which goes ahead and then talks to these ERP systems. The important thing to remember here is that we want to get connected data and processes, and Vault PLM is the key to this. This is what's going to allow you to drive change in your organization and improve your workflow efficiencies, not just for your CAD processes, but for your quality processes, for your supplier management processes, for your product development processes, as well as the product lifecycle management that might need to take place. Thank you very much for joining me about today, and please don't hesitate to contact us should you require any information on Fusion Manager and Vault. We are here and we are very happy to help you sort out your specific needs with regards to your data management. Cheers, everyone.